So whether it's cybersecurity, information technology, defense and aerospace, you name it, over our 29 years in business, we've been able to really work with the best and the smartest technologists, only to find out that they share the same problems. So listening to what they have to say and making sure that we embed the culture of the company and their values really kind of created a success path for agency.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by Write For Me, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Gal Borenstein, CEO of the Borenstein Group and author of the book, Don't Believe the Hype. Gal, thank you for being with us today. How are you?
Thank you for having me, and it's an honor to be on this podcast.
Excellent. I appreciate your time. Please tell us a bit about yourself and about the Borenstein Group.
Well, the Borenstein Group is an integrated marketing, branding, and PR agency that really kind of focuses on two markets, business to business and business to government. And 90% of our clients are technology companies. Back in 1995, I was a fresh graduate out of George Mason University's first techno MBA program, where they realized that the new world would connect business and technology before the IBMs of the world were kind of going away, and a lot of new small to mid-sized companies are going to grow. And that's really how the Borenstein Group was born, out of the notion that small to mid-sized companies deserve the same quality that large companies deserve in order to communicate their message. And I took the model of saying, hey, if you are a startup, if you're a two-man proof of concept, if you're nascent, if you already have 50 employees or 250 employees or 500 employees, there are things that you have to do to get your brand from zero to a hero. And really being able to do that using tools of the trade, which I consider to be an arsenal of things that could help your business be successful, public relations, social media, your website, and also what you say and what you don't say, and competitive research. All these things are really kind of ways to get to the bottom line of success and produce repeatable and predictable outcomes, which is the definition of science. And as you probably know, as a professional in the industry, a lot of ideas are really experiments where they basically start and then they just poof, level up. And the definition of science is producing repeatable and predictable outcomes. So the Borenstein Group really kind of, from the beginning, our tagline was making creativity a science, because creativity is not a science and is very much needed in order to produce something that is differentiated. However, if you can't scale it, if you can't take your message and really kind of make it so that it's effective, then you can't really be successful, and the idea just dies on the vine. So whether it's cybersecurity, information technology, defense and aerospace, you name it, over our 29 years in business, we've been able to really work with the best and the smartest technologists, and only to find out that they share the same problems unless they were in the marketing or business development position or growth before they started or became CEOs of other companies. So listening to what they have to say and making sure that we embed the culture of the company and their values really kind of created a success path for agency. Very quickly about myself, I was born and raised in Israel. I was a military journalist in my mandatory active duty in the Israeli army, and I came here at age 21. I was much younger than most people, but I was also much older than freshmen in college that had very different interests, as opposed to, hey, I'm coming to get education so I can get through life and be successful. Doing so, I finished my undergrad degree at the School of Communications at Temple University in Philadelphia in 2.5 years, simply because I couldn't afford it paying the tuition and spread it like most students. You can take 12 credits or you can take 17 credits, and it costs the same. So I took the 17 credits in every winter session and summer session. And then from there, moved to Fairfax, Virginia, where George Mason University is. And that's where the kind of the techno MBA and understanding the new world of telecommunications and networks and data is going to change the world. I kind of refer to it as the prehistoric, pre-browser era of the internet, because it was kind of a mystery. You could tell somebody that you're studying about telecommunications, and they thought about it as kind of a science fiction or astronomy, and they give you that look. So I'm laughing about it now because we are in the same scenario now with AI, and all the opportunities, the challenges, and the strategies that AI connects to marketing, branding, and PR really puts us in a position that still we have some people that are saying, oh, it never actually replace a human being or never replace a strategy. Yet, if you watch the market and you see all the new technologies and all the new smart, highly intelligent people that are coming up with ways to take something that is broken and leverage it and make it into something very successful. That's really where we are. And just as a happenstance, I was watching an interview with NVIDIA's CEO just the other day, and Jim Cramer from Fast Money on CNBC asked him, so what's next now that you have like a brain that you've created and working with OpenAI and all the other companies? And the CEO of NVIDIA basically answered it with, now that we have a brain, we can basically create limbs, hands, and legs, and any other part, and eyes that really kind of solve problems. And we can teach them how to do it. And once you teach them how to do it, maybe they'll be able to drive a car, wash the dishes, or make business development much easier by using intelligence, but also executing things that before depended on 30 years of experience or no experience. So I feel that we're kind of at that same point in history where you can choose to basically ignore it, or you can choose to be part of it. And that's really the continuous theme and motto of my agency.
There's definitely a quickening. I mean, the cycle of change in technology is so much shorter than it's ever been. And I think it's going to become exponentially shorter because AI, because that's its ability to do the research to prove a concept is now, I mean, is so short. It's so quick to turn around that I don't think anybody can tell you what a year from now is going to look like. So in terms of the verticals you service, you said 90% of your clients are in the tech sector and the other 10 are government entities, or is it?
No, the core of the company is 90% are really technologists, and the others are really management consulting companies
okay.
that are serving the technology companies or the technology economy. So if you think about for every cybersecurity company that has to be a process and a compliance uh, methodology, well, they don't do that. They code against hacking. So there's a management consulting company that does that. So, but the universe that we focus on is really the high tech industry, and we're very fortunate to be in the Washington D.C. area, which allows us to work with really the best and brightest, and what Silicon Valley is to applications. Washington, D.C., because of the government and because of the Department of Defense, that always looking for new ways to do things. It's a very entrepreneurial and rich environment.
What are the most typical problems you are solving for your clients?
I would answer that with three key issues that they all kind of face. I mean, the first is differentiation. Being able to say we do X, Y, and Z and put it in the matrix that shows that you're compliant with what other companies are offering is not enough to build a brand and to be successful. So helping companies understand, number one, where their vulnerabilities are and how to fix that through differentiation, which comes from a combination of research, but also exuding their personality and their culture and taking it to the front of the process, just like Steve Jobs did with Apple. Apple was Apple, but without Steve Jobs, there would be no Apple. When you can just walked on a stage and presented something that he loved and believed in. So differentiating the company is a very important pillar in what we do. The second really is, how do you communicate it in the proper channel to build yourself as a company that has a brand that resonate with your target audience? In B2B and B2G marketing, you find very often that companies with very smart people have never written any content of any kind, whether it was case study, thought leadership paper, or posting new ideas to create a community of knowledge, which, by the way, is the best way to really kind of create a positioning for yourself. So what we do is really kind of help these very smart people, who are mostly engineers and technical people, with a format that allows them to communicate their ideas and get their message out there. Because in most service businesses, as one of the older books that I read when I was training myself on how to develop business, and I had no experience. I didn't even sell lemonade in the lemonade stand. I started my own company, and I said, "Oh, I'm a CEO of a company, but how do I sell what are all these ideas that I have?" So I thought that was kind of a good illustration of what are the things you have to do. And yes, being able to create authority, leadership, and helping these guys that are very, very smart companies with services or technology. You are the sale, which is the name of the book. And you're the sale because if you're a company, your culture and your people are the sale. If you are in a product category, you still have to be able to create a persona that is actually likable, strategic to your mission, and most importantly, solves a problem that people either know that they have it, or help them discover that they have a problem that could be fixed and make them more efficient, more productive, whatever the thing may be. And really kind of the third, which is the most critical as technology marketing and branding and PR has taken, a huge leap between the old days where a press release was just a press release, which now is called content marketing, because you can take the same press release and also make it into a blog, make it into a white paper, make it into a case study, and then broadcast it through narrowcasting on social media channels where your audience may be. The third pillar of it is, how do you build digital brand trust in the environment that you actually operate in? We find very often that companies spend very little time thinking about the fact that it's not really what you think about yourself. It's what other people think about you when you're not in the room. And I'm paraphrasing Jeff Bezos of Amazon, that was asked that question one day. He was asked, what is branding? And he said, it's what people say about you when you're not in the room. And if you kind of extrapolate it into customer testimonials, into validation through reviews, and also creating an environment where when you see all these fake news and fake reviews, and there's so much noise that you have to really create your narrative and use the tools that are available to you, that are available.
Of course.
People just don't connect that necessarily to the fact that at the end of the day, when you're buying something that costs $500,000 and $1 million and $2 million or $100 million, which some of our clients sell, trust is the most important coinage, if you will, in making it successful. So these are kind of the three things that we do that really kind of then become extensions of tactical execution points.
Well, you speak our language in spades, as they say. We preach many of the things that you're talking about. Human nature is such that people post negative reviews much quicker than they do positive reviews, for the most part. So we have to remind clients to proactively go seek out to boost their Google business profile, for instance, or to have more case studies. I echo what you said. What you think of yourself is interesting, but that's not how you're closing a sale. It's what those people over there, their experience with you and what they have to say about the experience is what closes the deal. Absolutely.
Yes, and I think what most people kind of don't necessarily process when they start marketing whatever brand they're working with is the fact that if you don't get that trust and you only think that you passed all the technical certifications and you're using, whether it's cybersecurity, there's a CMMI maturity model for how secure are you and what policies you're following with your cybersecurity product, or whether it's an AI company that needs to have a good privacy policy to make sure that people trust that whatever they're putting in the system will actually be protected from hacking, or as the latest case study, which is 23andMe, which was just on the news this week about going bankrupt. Everybody's talking about deleting their profiles. And in reality, it is in chapter 11, not chapter 7, which means somebody's going to acquire that information. And if 23andMe is able to sustain the trust that the data is not being sold to Russians or Chinese, like the fear that we have with TikTok, that's really something that can be salvaged and actually made even better. So
23andMe is a glaring example of how we've been numbed out. We all have apps and programs that have terms of service updates on a regular basis. What percentage of human beings reads the fine print? And the answer is nearly zero. I'm sure that you're a different person because you're acutely aware of what's at stake when you click that I accept box. But we can be agreeing to just about anything. I mean, 23andMe, for example, there are a lot of people sitting in federal penitentiaries now because they were allowing law enforcement access to genetic information, which helped people prosecute lots of crimes. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have agreed to that day one if they'd read all the fine print about where the data was going. But yeah, it's a dangerous world when Apple pushes an update to your OS and it is this long, no one's reading it, and it could say anything.
yes, and that's where really kind of having a pretext of trust really allows you to promote and help people kind of move from, I'm not sure if I can sign it, to understanding there are standards that have to evolve, and none of them will be perfect, but at least there is something that you can build on as you kind of cognitively analyzing, should I click yes without reading it or not? Yes, most people don't read it, but you wouldn't do it with a company you don't trust. And I think in the digital world that we live in now, where you can have a video conference with a person you never met before, and have probably the same impact that you would have if you met them for a coffee or lunch or at a trade show. All these kind of vehicles have to connect to building a persona of trust. And I think that is what drives success and failure in today's environment. And I think it's only going to get more intense.
No, I mean, trust is paramount for any relationship that's closer than arm's length of any sort, personal, professional. I mean, in your space, you're representing people. You're responsible for telling the world their story and who they are.
Yes.
Trust is day one, has to be established because that sort of relationship can't have legs otherwise. Absolutely. Switch gears for a minute. Tell me about the COVID years and the challenges and opportunities of trying to sustain a business like yours through COVID.
When COVID kind of really hit, it broke every business model that was out there. Obviously, industries such as that depend on people actually coming to a store, like food, groceries, things of that nature, suddenly they didn't know what to do with their employees, and they fired most of their employees or put them on leave and tried to basically survive. In the services business, and specifically in the world of advertising and marketing and branding, it actually created a very interesting dynamic that at the beginning caused me and most owners of agencies a lot of anxiety, but actually wind up being fundamentally the next industrial revolution for agencies and consulting companies that are working to sell knowledge, if you will. The first part of it was the fact that pre-COVID, every community that you live in has a limited amount of talent pool. And when that talent pool is limited and the cost of living is high, you wind up essentially working with a model that makes it more expensive to provide quality service to people that may not be able to afford it, restricting the market opportunity. So when we learned that after 4 or 6 months of an empty office that had 15 employees, that it doesn't really make sense that nobody wanted to come to work. Nobody could go to work at the beginning because of all um, the vaccines and the deaths on the news and counting the deaths every day, right? It was a real crisis for a lot of people. So being able to say, hey, with the internet, with all the talent sites that show talented people that were in Washington, D.C., that maybe somebody in Ohio, maybe somebody in Kentucky, maybe somebody in Arizona, maybe somebody that is in a European country that is a graphic designer or a web designer, for example, we can reach out to them now and actually have a complete transparent relationship that you would have with the person that is typically next door or 3 cubicles away. And that really kind of opened the door to changing the business model and saying, do we really need an office? We had 5,000 square feet, Class A space, which to me was worth the rent that we were paying, because in order to be successful, you need to look successful and project success. And when COVID happened, I really kind of moved into thinking about it as now it's really is overhead because nobody is using the office. So expanding the talent pool was a very positive outcome, which meant more talent to be evaluated and used, scaling that talent to multiple locations, including deadlines. In our industry, everything is run by deadlines. So if a client called you at 5:30 p.m. on the East Coast or on the West Coast, doesn't matter where you are, and they say, we need it in the morning, it used to be, well, you basically would work all night or basically say, we can't do it because our video studio is closed or our copywriters need to go through a quality assurance. And suddenly being able to do what they call in coding world, follow the sun, created an opportunity to really say, we can do it for tomorrow morning because we have folks on the West Coast, we have folks on the East Coast, and when we're in a pinch, we have people that we work with that are in Europe that have the same education and the same access to technology that we have. The second part was really the fact that trade shows died, and the opportunity to meet people and to network and to communicate in person, where you can do a handshake, you can share a funny story at a luncheon, you can go to a networking event. All these things disappeared. So that first 6 months, this first 6 month environment really kind of were devastating. But again, innovation came to place, and what used to be a flailing company called Skype that meant to do what Zoom and Microsoft Teams and WebEx were already doing, but nobody knew about it. Skype just closed because the only people that used them were people that were trying to save money on international calling plans, because calling Europe could have cost 5 years ago or 10 years ago, $10 a minute to make a call. So having Skype was great, but Skype wasn't ready for a business grade level of communication. So when the networking went away, when the trade show stopped, people still needed to meet. So when Zoom came along, it changed the way we were thinking, because now we could actually talk face to face. We could schedule it in any time that we want to. And most importantly, create that human connection that is the absolute fundamental of asking the question and answering it can I trust this person? Do I like this person if I'm hiring? Do I feel that we can do business together? And there's no replacement for that psychological make of every person that works. So bringing the video conferencing into as easy as using your iPhone or using it on your desktop at home created a whole new way of replacing the networking event, replacing the trade shows. And that really kind of helped, I think, most service businesses that are selling knowledge really kind of change the way they do business, expand their market share, and really kind of communicate better. So these are kind of the two most important things that happen. And the third, we were a Washington, D.C. based company. And suddenly we were getting clients from New Jersey, from San Francisco, from Alaska, from Hawaii, technology companies, because they didn't have to travel anymore to come to Washington, D.C. or only look in Washington, D.C. They could look anywhere. And they were able to find us. And then we'll say, okay, let's hop on a video call and talk about who we are. And you tell us what your needs are. And they did it with 3 or 4 companies. And that was fun. In fact, we told them, do talk with 3 and 4 companies and pick the one that you can imagine being in a room when things don't go well. Are they going to be your partner or are they going to be your vendor? And being able to follow through on it. So, of course, not 100% of these conversations wind up in your business, but it allows us to really kind of move the bar to a place where the geography of clients is now truly international, as long as it fits what you do. So with the horrible things that COVID brought to the world, with the death and the sickness and people dying and people losing their jobs and having a complete breakdown of a lot of kind of the social constructs for a while, the upside of COVID was innovation, American innovation, really kind of pushed the entire world to a place where we are a global village, where in the past, when somebody said we're a global village or it takes a village, right? People were kind of laughing and saying, yeah, but it was really kind of in quotes. And suddenly, yes, we are. Just the way we're talking today. We're a perfect example of that.
I still find it remarkable. You brought up Skype. I cannot believe they did not find a way to expand, to pivot, and sustain themselves of all of the companies, because who doesn't know that brand? Who didn't? When COVID began, I'm sure their volume of calls went way up. The idea that they didn't find a way to be here today ahead of Zoom and ahead of the other entities we're talking about is remarkable to me.
Yes. And really, without going into too much analysis, it really kind of was all about user interface and being able to think like a business person, not like a person-to-person communications, which meant, do you want to record your video? Do you want a transcription of the conversation so you don't forget what the client or the prospect said? Do you want to be able to mute your camera because you're not comfortable being on camera? All these things really were not part of how Skype operated. And it became kind of the lonesome orphan, if you will, of the industry. So not surprising, but again, it's survival of the fittest.
All right. Tell us a little bit about your book, Don't Believe the Hype.
Well, I'm very proud that I just released my 3rd book, business book, and it was a bestseller for the first 2 weeks. It came out on Amazon, both on Kindle and print. And it's called Don't Believe the Hype, because I felt that there was a need for kind of a guide for CEOs and chief marketing officers and chief growth officers about how you actually create a system that recognizes that trust is the core of your brand versus another thing that you have to do before you end the day. So the book really is about presenting a system which I call the Guardian, which is a really kind of initials for steps that you have to take. And really what it's about is, if you're a corporation, you have to look at trust on how you communicate your financial information to outside people, if you're publicly traded, or to your banks that are holding your loans, and how do you communicate success to employees in a company, and how do you do it in a way that actually communicates it in a way that they don't think that you're hiding something, or that you're telling them something that isn't true. The same with HR. How do you recruit people in a digital age is very different. Indeed now, and I believe ZipRecruiter as well, have now integrated video interviews into how they recruit people. So employers can actually not just look at a resume that most of them don't really look at, but also kind of do something about it. So how do you communicate on the recruitment side? And then how do you communicate to your employees when there's bad news? So every part of the organization that we call a business or corporation has a trust factor that can be communicated better if you recognize that that is the heart of your strategy and not the tactic that you use to just get from point A to point B. Is my first and most remembered boss in my career. His name is Bill Peterson. He's now retired, but he ran a telecommunication company. He used to tell me, Gal, here's my problem. I know how to get from point A to point B. The problem is I don't know how to get from point A to point Z. And that really kind of relates to what this book is about, creating a system that can have both kind of measurement tools, matrix, as well as ideas on how to make sure that management teams actually think about what it is that they need to do and measure it and then make it better, is really kind of a way to think about your brand, because your brand is not just external, your brand is internal. And when you don't do that, you basically have companies that get very low marks on their culture. And when you have low marks in your culture, disdain, distrust, and really kind of lack of willing to do business with that company follows.
It's all logical and it seems obvious, but obviously people need to be reminded, because there's a lot of businesses that just don't function that way. They forget, they put the sales growth and the almighty dollar up on a board, and that's what we're going after. And there's a Machiavellian path to that. And those aren't relationships that have legs. It just doesn't work that way. So no, I appreciate your approach. And I thank you for, the reminders of what's important to have a foundational relationship in any business setting.
Of course. And just to kind of put a finer point here, is all these things used to be done person to person, face to face. Let's go to lunch and talk about an issue. Let's have a management meeting and look at each other and try to come to an understanding. Let me interview the disgruntled employee and understand where they come from. But then the digital world made it impersonal, and people now have other tools to communicate good news and bad news. And in any one of the departments in a corporation, from the CEO's office to the HR department, to the finance department, to the operations department, to the customer service, all of it depends on being able to recognize what you have and what you don't have and how do you solve it. But it has to be done through the kind of the scope of the mission is to really get trust outcomes, as opposed to we just got through another crisis and we're waiting for the next one. Crisis will always be there, but the better equipped you are with those techniques and tools, chances are that you're going to be able to weather the storm a lot more effectively.
Absolutely. Look down the road a year from now. What are some things you'd like to be celebrating personally and professionally?
Well, I think that being in the industry with a staying power of 29 years for recessions and things going sideways, like in every business, you have your ups and you have your downs. Really, one goal that I made for myself as an agency owner and somebody that always kind of liked to consult was really to make a decision that I will spend time on content creation. And that really resulted in 6 months of not sleeping really well at night and 48 revisions that wound up being my third book that we just released. And so really continuing educating people is one goal. The second is to mentor as we do now, but get more of mentoring to a new generation of leaders so they understand what it is that is important. And that gives me great satisfaction knowing that I'm not keeping the trade secrets to myself, because there aren't really trade secrets. There are things that we all need to feel more confident moving forward. And the third really is to have fun and move from really kind of being, chained to kind of corporate objectives, if you will, and growing and dealing with kind of the business side of things. You're always going to have to do that unless you retire. But you still have to figure out how to have fun. And I think when you ask the question about COVID, when you ask the question about the book, it really is, what are the things that can help you be happy beyond just fulfilling the list or checking the boxes? I don't have the answer to that question, but part of the fun is figuring it out.
Gal Borenstein, please tell us, what's your URL? Where can people find the Borenstein Group, and what social media outlets are you using these days as well?
Well, our main social media and my personal social media that I use is LinkedIn. You can find it. You can find my profile, Gal Borenstein, on LinkedIn. And you'll find a lot of articles that I write almost weekly to talk about issues that kind of arise in matters that relates to marketing and public relations and branding. So LinkedIn is really kind of my go-to social media because it allows me to write more than 144 characters. But then when you want to distribute the information, we're also on Twitter, and we're also on Facebook, because where people are is very difficult to really control. But we basically see what the metrics are and where people are more engaged. So for business to business, it is LinkedIn. How to find me and the company, you just have to type borensteingroup.com, which is spelled BORENSTEIN GROUP.com. And as I tell some of my clients that always kind of have an exchange of fun, is it Borenstein or Borenstein? I always tell them, think about a beer stein, and you'll know how to spell my last name. And then with a name like Gal, which is only known recently because of the
Yes,
female
Wonder Woman.
version,
Yes.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Gal Gadot really was always hard for me to get people to even pronounce it or to spell it. And the joke that I developed over the years that kind of made me kind of a lot easier and comfortable communicating with is if you really remember, get a life. That's what you need to do. Talk to Gal.
There you go. Gal Borenstein, thank you so much for spending some time with us on Business Ninjas. Continued health and success with the Borenstein Group. Thank you very much. I appreciate your words today and your approach. They resonate with me quite a bit.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. And I think that, again, I really and truly believe in sharing the knowledge. And thank you for giving me this opportunity today.
My pleasure. Be well.